What was supposed to be a casual late-night chat turned into a battlefield, the one that no one was prepared for. And when the dust settled, it wasn't the comedian who stood tall, it was the youngest voice in Washington. This is the moment that changed late-night television forever. Last night, something happened that no one saw coming. What was meant to be another easy laugh on national television turned into a full-blown political standoff that left millions speechless. Jimmy Kimmel Leavitt, known for its jokes and lighthearted interviews, it became a battleground, and at the center of it all stood Karoline Leavitt, the youngest White House press secretary in U.S. history, who walked onto the lion's den and walked out leaving scorched earth behind her. It all started innocently enough. The cameras rolled, the audience cheered half-heartedly, and Karoline stepped onto the stage. She wore a sharp, no-nonsense blue suit, her face lit with a polite professional smile. Some in the crowd cheered, others booed, the tension already crackling in the air like static before a storm. Still, Karoline moved forward, calm and unshaken. Jimmy greeted her with his usual late-night charm. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Karoline Leavitt." The music swelled, the claps echoed, and she took her seat. At first, the banter was harmless, a chatter about gas prices, student debt, and the economy's wild ride. Karoline answered with crisp confidence, each word measured like a chess master laying the first few careful moves. But then Jimmy leaned in, and with the smirk that barely hid the blade underneath, he asked, "So, Karoline, do you actually believe the stuff you say at those press briefings, or is it just really good acting?" The audience roared with laughter, but the mood shifted. The energy that had been playful twisted into something sharper, darker. Karoline didn't flinch. She smiled thinly and answered, "I speak for the president and the American people. My job is to deliver the facts, even when the media refuses to cover them." You can feel Ida. The atmosphere tightened like a wire pulled too taut. Jimmy laughed again, but this time it sounded hollow. "Facts," he said, raising an eyebrow. "That's a bold word for DC." The crowd chuckled nervously, but Karoline didn't back down. She leaned in, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. "It's easy to joke about leadership, Jimmy. When you never have to make real decisions, it's a lot harder to actually stand behind a podium and answer to the people every single day." The audience exploded, as some cheering, others booing, at the room fracturing into two camps, neither willing to budge. Jimmy's grin wavered. He tried to steer back with a joke, but the momentum was slipping through his fingers. And then Jim went for the kill. The giant screen behind them lit up with the clay, carefully selected 5 seconds from one of Karoline's press briefings where she stumbled over a tough inflation question. The audience laughed again, louder this time, encouraged by the bait. Karoline didn't even blink. Her face stayed calm, but her eyes burned cold. "That's the best you've got," she said, her voice slicing through the laughter. A clip ripped out of context. "Maybe you should apply for a job at CNN." The crowd snapped, a half roaring with laughter, half standing in stunned applause. It wasn't a comedy show anymore. It was a battlefield. Jimmy tried again, his voice sharper, his jokes gone. "What's the context for defending chaos, Karoline?" He pressed, leaning in close. Without hesitation, Karoline leaned in too, matching him glare for glare. "The real context, Jimmy, is this: you don't want a conversation, you want the spectacle. You thrive in division. I came here to talk about policy. You came here for cheap applause." Phones shot up everywhere. People know this wasn't going to air unedited. They wanted raw footage. They could smell history being made backstage. Producers whispered frantically into headsets, "Should we cut to commercial?" Someone hissed, "No." The director snapped, eyes wide, "Let it roll." Karoline turned to the audience, her voice unwavering, "You don't have to agree with me, but don't let late-night comedians tell you what's true. They're here to entertain you and not to inform you." Jimmy interrupted, again desperate to claw back control. "If anyone's twisting the truth, it's the press secretary who dodges real questions." Karoline's voice cut like a whip. "Maybe if the media asked real questions, I wouldn't have to dodge anything." The room gasped. Tension exploded like a fireball. The audience wasn't laughing anymore, but they were holding their breath. Jimmy leaned in for one last jab, but his jokes failed him. "Do you really think you're helping people, Karoline? You're just defending a president who can't even stay awake." Karoline stood her ground, her face set in stone. "Say what you want about the president," she said, "but he faces the American people every day, takes criticism, and keeps showing up. That's more than I can say for entertainers who hide behind punchlines." Silence fell like a heavy curtain. Jimmy looked stunned. No one moved, no one spoke. And then Karoline stood up. She reached for her mic, unhooked it with slow, deliberate hands, and turned to the audience. "I came here for a conversation," she said. "Not a circus." Without another word, she walked off the stage, leaving Jimmy sitting there hollow and frozen. The audience didn't know how to react. Some people clapped, some booed, others just sat their phones still in the air recording every second. Jimmy forced a smile. Well, that was different. He said weakly. The band played. The show cut to a shaky emergency commercial break, but the damage was already done within minutes. Clips flooded TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, hashtags like hashtag Karoline Leavitt walkout and hashtag late night meltdown exploded across platforms. Karoline became a sensation overnight. Some hailed her as courageous, others mocked her for storming out. But love her or hate her, and nobody could ignore her. Even celebrities jumped in, some siding with Jimmy, others stunned by Karoline's calm dominance. Late night wasn't supposed to look like this. Meanwhile, back in Washington, reporters demanded answers at the next morning's press briefing. A journalist asked if she regretted walking out. Karoline smiled. Slightly. No regrets, she said. I came with respect. I left with my dignity. It wasn't just a line, it was a shot fired across the national consciousness. That night, Jimmy returned to his show. His jokes were off, his energy was rattled. He tried to laugh about Ida. Maybe I went too far, he admitted, but the crowd's laughter was thin, uncertain. The impact was already rippling out beyond Hollywood. Conservative media hailed Karoline as a warrior. Liberal commentators warned that late-night comedy might have lost its edge for good. Podcasts debated every second of the clash. College students surprisingly leaned in her favor, or not for her politics, but for her composure. Support came from unexpected corners. Even Chris Pratt tweeted, I may not agree with her, but the way she handled that momenta that took guts behind closed doors. Jimmy's producers panicked. Advertisers pulled out. Sponsors grew nervous. Meetings were called. One exec reportedly told Jimmy she didn't just walk out, she walked through, and America saw it. And Karoline, she didn't chase fame. She didn't run to CNN or Fox. She started posting short, unedited videos on Lineage. Just her speaking directly to Americans, answering the very questions Jimmy never let her.